Welcome to Ignite the Spark Within, a podcast designed to do just that, ignite your spark within you. I'm your host, Sarah Malone, owner of Spark the Secret Place, and voted Yahoo Finance's top 10 female coaches to follow in 2021. Through my work as a clinical hypnotherapist, spiritual, and life coach, I have seen the deep-rooted programming that holds most people hostage in their lives, preventing them from living fully. Most of the time, these programs are not unique to one individual, but rather a collective of individuals manifesting themselves in different ways. Together, we will delve into the realms of psychology, spirituality, and the intricate facets of this human experience. From navigating complex emotions and dysfunctions to deciphering this ever-changing world around us, join me for thought-provoking conversations that challenge conventional perspectives and the status quo. Let's dive in, and through passionate and purposeful discussions, I pray this show will help you ignite your spark within. Well, welcome back to the show once again, everyone. I am really excited for today's topic. We're going to get right into it because it's a lot. This may be the most notes I've ever taken for a show in my entire recording history of this show. But it's important. And so I found it very valuable to be very thorough to make sure I cover all the bases as we are talking about relationships, partnerships, and our attachment styles within relationships. We'll also be talking about trauma bonds. I find that 2023 was quite turmoilic in the way of relational intelligence, relational problems, the relational cycles, toxic relationships. We really went through the ringer as far as our contribution to our habitual or cyclical relationships that we tend to enter into and understanding those, right? I feel as though there's been a shift in karma, meaning we are becoming more aware of our karmic attachments, our karmic relationships, and what needs to be done in order to complete those cycles. And so in order to do this, we need to understand our relational attachment styles and our types, how they form, how to heal them, and then the spiritual solution to these so we can rise above and attract the types of relationships and partnerships that we truly desire and that are in alignment with what we are called to do, but also more importantly, in alignment with our happiness, because the quality of your relationships equals the quality of your life. And contrary to some gurus and inspirational people who say that you should just be able to rise in any environment or soil that you're placed in, it's untrue. We are going to experience pain and suffering if we have painful relationships. That's just the way that it is. And I'm sure you can say through history, looking back at your experiences, find many examples that this is the case. And so we're going to deep dive into these attachment styles and relationships today, talking about trauma bonds, what they are. We will cover the following points. We'll cover the 3 types of attachment styles. We'll cover the 3 types of attachments. We'll cover the 4 attachment styles amongst those 3 types. We will go over trauma bonds, what they are, how to recognize if you're in one. We'll go over the difference between a relationship and a partnership, because there is a difference. We will talk about triggers, how to recognize them, how to heal them, and how to work within them. And then to wrap up, we will go over the spiritual solution to any dysfunctional attachment styles, trauma bonds, or toxic relational patterns. This is a big one, and I find it important to break this series of love and true love and attachments, relationships into 2 parts. And so the second part will be followed in a couple of weeks, where we will talk about communication in relationships and needs and values, and then defining what true love really is, not what we've been taught in this world. So before we dive in, I always like to begin my episodes by thanking you so very much. My gratitude is unending. I love this show so much, and I love all you listeners for your continued feedback, support, sharing little clips that you loved and what nuggets you were able to take out of it. So please keep doing that. That helps me to know how to tailor the information to better suit your needs and your desires and where you are right now. That is extremely helpful for me. And I always ask, if this does bring you value in any way, or you're hearing that's bringing somebody else value, please share this episode. Please rate it on Spotify. It only helps us to be able to reach more people, which is my ultimate goal. You may also donate to the show. Could be a one-time monetary energy exchange or a continued giving. This just helps me to keep this show ad-free, which I prefer to do. And any little bit goes a long way, which leads me to announcing a portion of my mission of my company that I've expanded into just recently. And I've opened up a donation section of my business, of my mission really here, because what I'm finding is that in these very strange economical times, it can be hard and challenging to get the help that we need, which breaks my heart because I believe that with the amount of resources that this world has, this shouldn't be an issue, but it is. And so I have noticed that I hear a lot, and I believe a lot, that people really desire to come to things like the retreats or to get therapy or to get healing. And they literally can't because they cannot afford it, even if it's a minimal monetary value. And so I've opened up a section on my website. You'll go to it, sparkflc.com. You'll find a donate button. And this section is all for this. Every tip that I receive and every amount of money that goes into the donate button, into that fund, 100% of those proceeds goes into a scholarship fund to be able to help those who come here and say they want to do this, they need the retreat, they need the therapy, they need whatever they need, they just can't afford it. And so we put them through a vetting process to make sure that they are below means, and this scholarship fund goes to supporting their ticket or their ongoing therapy. So even if you don't feel called to do something like the retreat or the therapy yourself, and you do believe in this cause, please consider donating. Again, any amount is helpful. My mission here is to have more of an ongoing donation fund to support people in this way. Last but not least, announcements. The upcoming retreat in February is completely sold out. So we are geared up for August. Our next retreat will be in August 1st through 5th. We are pre-selling tickets right now. This one is hosting 10 people, men and women. Again, it's a healing and growth retreat. There is an interview process for this retreat because making sure everybody who is involved in this experience is on the same page and at the right place to receive this type of transformation is very important. We want to make sure that that everyone is ready and aligned for this space. So this will sell out, 100% it will sell out. And we're also working on coming up with more dates for this year. Right now, 2 seems to not be enough. So we are working on other dates. If this is of interest to you and you would like to be informed when those other dates are available and decided on, please reach out to me. I will put you on the list so that you are informed when the next retreat is decided. Okay, moving on, getting into the good stuff. So attachment styles, relationships, partnerships, patterns, trauma bonds, all of this. What the heck is it? So there are 3 different forms of, or I should say, ways in which we can live this life in relationship one to another or ourselves to others. There's attachment, there's detachment, and there's unattachment. Attachment being what everything we're going to talk about today is really the way that you attach yourself, right? Not physically. And I hope if you're watching this episode, you could see my guest here, Thor, in the corner. He's with me on every episode, I swear, and everything that I do. He's my angel. So if you're watching, say hi to Thor. Attachments. Yes, it's how we attach to others in partnerships and relationships, right? Not just physically, but energetically, emotionally, mentally, and how we attach even to people after they're gone, right? This is really the challenge. But then there's the other form on the other end of that, which is detachment. And detachment is equally painful in its own way, but this is more isolation and pushing away from. And ironically, it's not really a detachment at all, because if we're focusing on keeping ourselves away from others, we are in some way attached to them, by them, with them, something. But then there's the one in the middle, and that is unattachment. And that is to live in the space of neither and both. Ironically, how does one do that? That's crazy. How can you say that? Unattachment is the ability to be in relationship with people in the present moment without the need to know what's coming up next or the need to dwell on what has passed. And it's being able to have healthy attachments in the way of, if someone does leave, it's not going to impact us so epidemically that it's just a tragedy, an internal tragedy. Unattachment is, I have healthy relationships when they are here. I'm in them in the present moment. I'm feeling the love between us, the resonance between us, but I'm not attached to it. I don't need it. And I don't need it to go a certain way. So what we find then is most of our suffering comes from our unmet expectations within relationships. I'm going to say that one more time. Most of our suffering, most, not all, comes from unmet expectations in relationships. Now, relationships can be friendships. It can be mother to father. It can be mother to son, father to daughter, sister to brother, sister to sister, so on and so forth. Relationships is all human engagements and all human connections in which we are in relationship with them. Okay? That's all relationships. And so, like I said, the majority of our suffering comes from unmet expectations within these relationships. And a lot of these expectations we're setting without ourselves realizing them until we get disappointed, let down, quote unquote, abandoned by this other party in the relationship. And we realize, oh my gosh, we had an expectation that went unmet. And now it communicates something to us. And this is how we form attachments. How we form attachments is largely based on childhood, parental experiences, and learned behavior that we learned from a very young age on how to attach to mother and father. We need these attachments because as a young child, we need our mother and father in order to survive. So these attachments at this very young age are actually vital. Our life depends on these attachments. And so based on our experiences, our relationships, and thus our traumas as well, we form attachments or dysfunctional attachment styles. Our relationships with our parents will either promote healthy or unhealthy views of attachments and needs. And without going too deep down the rabbit hole with the caretaking attachments, from this place will dictate how we form our attachments in our adult years, both in friendships and in romantic partnerships. And so for instance, forming attachment styles based on our childhood experiences or trauma, big traumas or little traumas, doesn't matter. As an example, when we are learning what our attachments should look like by either our mom or our dad, we are making several assessments. Number one, how mom and dad attach to each other. Okay, this is huge, 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 huge. How they're attached to each other, right? If you have a codependent mother who can't simply make a decision on her own, needs your dad in order to make any decision, you're learning what attachment should be like in the partnership, right? Women, you're learning to rely on your man, not make a decision. Your voice doesn't count. Men, you're learning to domineer your woman, that you are in charge, all of these types of things, right? Or you go the other way and you say, I don't want any of that. I want the exact opposite. And men, you become the one who is more submissive in the relationship. And women, you become the more domineering one because you say, I'm never going to be like my mom, right? So we can go one of two ways in that. In the dysfunctional way, or you develop a secure attachment style, which is the ultimate solution and what we're attempting to move towards. But you're also learning to form attachment styles based on how you were responded to in certain situations. For example, if a mom if your mom or your dad just took off, okay, didn't say anything, just left, disappeared, didn't come back, this may result in a feeling of abandonment and may cause certain avoidant attachment styles, right? In fear that you may experience this abandonment again, like, oh my gosh, I better not attach to anybody because they may leave me, right? And so you spend your life forming kind of half-ass relationships or half-ass partnerships in the way that you're with them, but you're not really all the way with them, right? That making sense? That probably resonates with a few of you. Or how about this example of the baby crying in the crib for hours and hours and hours, and we've been told to sleep train our kids, right? And then they cry in the crib, just ignore them, they'll stop crying. Yes, and what this teaches the child is that when I cry out for help, nobody's coming to help me. So there's another avoidant attachment style in the way that they don't speak up when they need something because they've learned that attachment is unreliable, right? When a baby is crying in the crib, they actually need that physical presence of most likely mom, that nurturing, that holding. They need to know when I cry, my mom is there. That's part of the healthy attachment cycle. When that doesn't happen, they're learning that attachment is unreliable, that they shouldn't have it. Okay. Now that can go one of two ways. That can be more ambivalent in nature, where I'm just going to lash out in order to finally make my voice heard, or it can go the opposite way, where there's a numbed effect. And another avoidant attachment style comes from this in the way that says, don't rely on anybody else because they're not really there for you. Okay. So these childhood experiences are really here to form our adult attachment styles. And whether we like it or not, whether it was our fault or not, we're responsible for that. We are responsible for that. And what happens is, in this episode, I'm going to refer more to romantic partnerships because I find that's the more common place of suffering, confusion, or at the very least, catalyst for change and growth, right? A lot of people last year, this year, continuing forward, we can know that the romantic partnership and the intimate relationship tends to be more of a place for catalytic change because there's more emotional risk. I'm going to say that one more time. The romantic and intimate relationship setting tends to be the place where more catalytic and emotional change tends to happen because there's more risk. In friendships, you're not as invested emotionally, right? You're not as vulnerable emotionally. In romantic partnerships, you're giving this person the keys to your heart. That's scary because your heart is like your life force. And they have the ability, what we do in these partnerships, in these relationships, in the intimate setting, is we're giving this person permission and the voice to say whether we're loved and valued and worthy or not. That's why it feels so dire, right? It feels so big. It feels hard. And it feels like when we experience either patterns or suffering or pain in this setting, it calls up more of us, right? It requires more work. It requires deeper work, and it highlights really where our dysfunctions lie. Because when something happens in an intimate relationship, we get to see how we respond when our worth, our value, our love, our connection, our base is either threatened or supported. When something happens, again, that doesn't meet our expectations, we get to see in a mirror, how do we respond? And how we respond is going to dictate really where our work needs to be done. It's also going to dictate what types of attachment style we are operating in this relational sense. And this is the keys to the kingdom, guys. These attachment styles are the keys to the kingdom, because they will point you towards where that developed. And if you can know where that attachment style developed and why, then you can understand what you need in order to have secure, healthy attachment style and not be so triggered and wounded in these relationships. That's what everybody wants. They want healthy relationships. So it's important to understand your attachment style. And I encourage you to focus this on yourself, to identify what your attachment style is. And maybe, then you can look around and see what type of attachment style either your partner is or your last failed relationship was that you're still bitter about, potentially. Maybe, I don't know who I'm talking to when I say that, but I feel that. So we tend to hold this resentment and bitterness towards our previous partners when they don't recognize their failings, and it becomes all your fault, right? But understanding these attachment styles is very helpful, because when you can develop secure attachments, you attract secure partners. And this is a secure partnership, okay? It's even deeper than a relationship. So let's dive in and first talk about the attachments, the attachment types, the attachment styles, what a secure attachment looks and feels like, and then we will expand from there. So according to John Bowlby, who is the one who developed the attachment styles, or who identified and first put a name to this, the way he defines attachments are lasting psychological connectedness between human beings. I'll say that again. The attachment theory is based on a man named John Bowlby, Bowlby. Look him up. He was the one who initially kind of put a name to attachment theory. His definition of attachment is the lasting psychological connectedness between human beings. Those are his exact words. And what we discover here is, as this work has expanded over time, is that there are 3 types of attachments. The first one being secure. Obviously, that's the one we desire. There are anxious attachments, and there are avoidant. Now, of course, within these 3 types, there are some subcategories, which we'll go over in a moment. But the anxious attachment style is that these types of attachments they get attached to people very easily, and they get very invested in their relationships, right? Possibly and potentially to the extreme level of codependence, right? And this anxiety, it tends to worsen in stressful situations. So in any anxious attachment type, you're going to see them attach very quickly. They're going to fall hard and fast. And if there's tension, conflict, or stress, either in the relationship or in life, this anxiety to the attachment, to the relationship, or to the person will only heighten. It will get more intense, right? These are your codependent people, your people-pleasing people, your kind of like what they would call themselves hopeless romantic. They're just like falling in love all the time, right? And they get very, very invested. They're all in. It's like that is the center of their world. Avoidant attachment types do the opposite. Is they make an effort not to get close to people. And if they feel that they're getting close, they will often sabotage the relationship or the situation when things are getting too good, right? So as to push this person away. Especially if they feel that they're getting too close, too vulnerable, too much feeling, they will avoid intimacy. And they may even have problems seeing themselves in a positive light, right? So like self-worth issues. They may even see others this way. You can put narcissistic tendencies in this category because all narcissistic tendencies are really pushing people away. In an effort to either put themselves down, put others down, or even put themselves on a pedestal. And this may be even a person who may be addicted to pornography, and like flingy relationships, right? It's your, I hate the term that is used today, but it's your, man or your woman that just kind of sleeps around, sells their body around. So these are avoidant attachments, avoidant types. Okay. Within these three types, secure, anxious, and avoidant, there are 4 attachment styles. And those attachment styles are as follows. Secure attachment, once again. Number 2 is ambivalent, insecure attachment. So this one is a bit uncommon, but these ones tend to be more like on the aggressive side. They would lash out. For instance, a child ambivalent attachment style would be they have a very hard time when the parents leave. And yet, even when the parents return, they're still not happy. It doesn't calm them. And instead, they may resort to aggression or violence towards their parents because they felt maybe abandoned by them. Okay. And this can be the same in adults, in partnerships. Let's say your partner's going to go off and do something on their own and it really bothers you. You feel abandoned. You feel too attached. Then when they come back, you lash out at them, right? Or get angry, violent, or call names. So this is your ambivalent, insecure attachment style. The next one is avoidant, insecure attachment style. And there are 3 types of avoidance. I know this gets lots of subcategories, right? So within the avoidant, insecure attachment style, there is the dismissive avoidant, there's the fearful avoidant, and there's the preoccupied avoidant. There's the dismissive avoidant, the fearful avoidant, and the preoccupied avoidant. Okay. Dismissive meaning we kind of avoid and in a way, this could be known like as gaslighting. It's like you're dismissing any potential feelings of the other person or going into an emotional conflict of the situation with your partner. This could also just be, isolation. There's fearful avoidance, meaning you really avoid closeness out of fear, in a fearful way. And there's the preoccupied avoidant. This one everybody can name. It's your workaholic. It's your busybody. It's your, flighty, hyperactive, always keeping themselves busy mentally, emotionally, and physically in order to avoid getting too close. Okay. The last attachment style is disorganized, insecure attachment. And I'm going to break these down, each of these more thoroughly in one moment. And so I'll just repeat each one so that you have them in your head. Secure attachment style, ambivalent insecure attachment style, avoidant insecure attachment style. Within those, there are 3 types: dismissive avoidant, fearful avoidant, and preoccupied avoidant, and the disorganized insecure attachment style. So in order to really understand which one you are, if you haven't already started to shape shift and see yourself or see others in the way that you are in a relationship, I want to break these down more thoroughly and just give you an explanation of each. I would like to do secure attachment last, because that is the one we should be focusing on and would be healing in order to get to this secure attachment style. By the way, we may have multiple attachment styles depending on different situations, right? This is possible. The better question you may want to ask yourself and others when assessing your attachment styles and others' attachment styles is, which one do I gravitate towards in the majority of situations, right? Because in relationships, we will experience various seasons. And these seasons will expose to you who you are within the relationship. This is hard. This is hard to see sometimes. The most important thing is that in some seasons or situations, you may possess and demonstrate avoidant attachment styles, right? And in others, you may demonstrate ambivalent attachment styles. So this does not mean that you are one or the other necessarily. It may actually come down to the fact that you're more of a disorganized insecure attachment style, which means you are kind of all over the place, and we'll go over that in a second. But what you want to assess is which attachment style is my go-to for the majority of situations. Okay, what do I tend to express? So let's go through these. Let's go through ambivalent insecure attachment first. Often these people feel reluctant about getting close to others, and they worry that their partner does not reciprocate their feelings, meaning they may feel like they love them and their partner doesn't love them back, right? This leads to a lot of breakups, often because distance is created in the relationship and it feels quite cold, right? Or this person will initiate a lot of breakups out of the fear that, they think their partner doesn't feel the same way about them, or their partner may break up with them because they aren't demonstrating the love that they say that they have, because of this lie that exists within, that their partner doesn't love them. Okay. These individuals will feel especially distraught after the end of a relationship. And in a very interesting study done by Cassidy and Berlin, they described another pathological pattern in which ambivalent insecure attachment styles, or especially in adults, will cling to young children as a source of security. So this could be your mother that clings to her own children as her source of security and validation and identity, and has a very hard time when her children either leave or they choose to have their own identity apart from their mother. Okay, this is very, very common, actually, in that way, where the mother is attaching to her children in an inappropriately intense way. It's disproportional to the attachment that a mother should have with her children, because they rely that relationship, her worth and her validation is reliant upon it. Okay, hope that one makes sense. That one's a little bit more elusive to describe. The avoidant. Now, I think that this one is the most common. I hear a lot of people talking about, I'm an avoidant, so-and-so is an avoidant, oh, my partner's an avoidant, oh, my ex is an avoidant. And so here's what an avoidant insecure attachment style tends to be. They tend to have difficulty with intimacy, close relationships of any kind, really. They don't invest very much emotion in the relationship. and they may seem unattached or experience very little, if any at all, distress when the relationship ends. This is a lot of men that I hear women saying, I don't know how they could just move on so quickly, right? I don't know how it doesn't bother them, right? They may be an avoidant attachment style. They will avoid intimacy often by using excuses like working too much, too busy. They may even have fantasies and be kind of off in dreamland when they're with their partner, maybe even during sex. They may be fantasizing about other people. And this would go to say that these avoidants will often be the ones to engage in kind of casual, flingy, one night stand sex. Again, pornography, right? Because we have those three different categories amongst the avoidant attachment style, specifically with the preoccupied and the dismissive, because they were really, the avoidance job is to avoid getting too close at all costs, right? Again, this may be formed from a very young place when attachment or getting too close caused pain or harm. Okay, so these avoidants are developing their attachment style because at a very young age, or at least an impressionable enough age, they learned that getting too close leads to pain or harm. Okay, this could be your a sexually abused person. It could be your child that is a result of a separated or divorced home, or maybe a parent died even, or a parent left, disappeared, completely leaving the scene. This could be a result of simple neglect, emotional neglect as a child. And that can be subtle or it could be major. It could be literally neglect, like their parents weren't even home and they were left to fend for themselves for the most of the day when they were too young and they shouldn't have been doing that. And they ended up having to take care of brother and sister too, because parents weren't home. Either they were working or they just chose otherwise, or drugs. Okay, these are how avoidant styles develop. And that's why they're the most common, because these types of childhood traumas are the most common. Oftentimes people experience neglect and they don't even realize that there was a level of neglect until they realize, oh my gosh, I can't even like admit that I need help. I can't even do self-care. I can't even make an investment in myself, because there's an issue of self-worth here. And then attaching or even the longing for their parents or any other partner to be there is too much to bear, because on the other side of that longing is the fear that that person won't be there. Huge. Next is the disorganized, insecure attachment style. And this one's a kind of a confusing mix of anxious and avoidant behaviors in relationships. And they'll tend to have a strong need for a close connection, yet really have a hard time opening up and being vulnerable. So they'll really, really crave this connection, yet they'll kind of be closed off to the idea of getting too close and being vulnerable. And so there's kind of like this inner war happening, right? I want to be close. And deep down, all of us want to be close, right? So in each of these, it's like, it's all there. But they'll have this kind of war happening within, with this strong desire to be close. And they may even demonstrate that desire to be close. And yet in the next moment, they'll push their partner away, or, shut down, or not want to be vulnerable. And so they'll often seek out the loving relationship, and it will seem secure at first. But then suddenly seemingly out of nowhere, they'll push the other person away. They'll sabotage their relationship. They'll have some trust issues. And this one is often known as kind of toxic, because it feels like a push and pull and push. There's clinginess involved. There's a lack of communication. There may even be abuse in these types of relationships, as it's very, very toxic and confusing. And these people will have most likely received inconsistent behavior from their parents, whereas their parents maybe acted both as a place of reassurance and a place of fear for the child. Maybe both at the same time, and maybe both in extreme ways at different times. Take the extreme example of a child who is a victim of sexual abuse within the family, meaning incest. This is more common than you may think. This is more common than you may think, which is devastating to know the astounding statistics with this. But this is a typical form, and this is why this one ends up being so toxic, is because it's very, very confusing for the individual to assess when this person is supposed to be my protector, when they end up hurting me, but yet they're telling me that everything's okay and I should be okay, and they hold me after. So take the very extreme example of this incestual abuse, in which the man who may be abusing the woman is abusing them, and in the act of abuse they're reassuring them and coaxing them and telling them that everything is okay. And so while the child is scared because something very, very abnormal and traumatic is happening, they're also being held by their perpetrator. This is very, very damaging and very, very hard to correct without some deep, deep work. But then there's the other end of the spectrum, which is more minor. It's a small t trauma, in which, maybe mom acted as this really strong nurturing figure with certain things. Like one day she was in one mood, right? And you all know what I'm talking about here. One day mom's in one mood and you spill some milk and everything's a-okay, and she's holding you, telling you that it's all okay. And the next day you spill some cereal and it's World War III, right? And so it's like same source of a situation or a mistake, and you're getting two entirely different responses from your nurturing figure, i.e. your mother. This creates a very disorganized, insecure attachment, because you have no idea. You have no idea. Do I connect with them? Do I not? So I want to connect with you, but no, I don't. I don't know what I want. And so this is really an attachment style that leads to some toxic behaviors, and could even result in some abuse from the person with the attachment style of the disorganized. So that was a lot of information. Now, what we want to do last then is, so all of these are dysfunctional, right? What is a secure attachment? Because this is going to dictate the health of your relationships in the future. If you have, by this point, been able to identify what your attachment style is, write it down. Write it down. Okay? You can get curious later about where it comes from, unless you already know where you learned it, whether through witnessing or through modeling. And what happens is we end up choosing partners from these unhealthy attachment styles. And here's what's interesting, right? Okay, this is so good. Is I look around and I see the divorce rate is sky high. And I don't think it's a commitment issue, right? I think, and this is my theory, based on seeing a lot of people in a lot of relationships going through similar cycles. It's my opinion that the divorce rate is high not because we have an issue committing. It's because we are committing to the wrong people at the wrong time from unhealthy attachment styles. Let me say that one more time. We are committing to the wrong people at the wrong time with unhealthy attachment styles. And that is why we have Americans, even worldwide, relationships that end in divorce so frequently. People get married too early on in their lives. They haven't had a chance or taken the time to discover themselves, their traumas, their childhood upbringing, their programming, and then be able to choose consciously from a secure attachment place their partner. And what ends up happening is people will choose partners from our parents, and men typically marry their mother, and women typically marry their father. And I say typically because this is not all the time, but this is very commonly. This is more frequently than not. Men will marry their mother and women will marry their father. They will marry them, not literally, by the way, not literally, figuratively. They will marry people that remind them of their mother, and women will marry people that remind them of their father, or at least the relationship or attachment style that they have with that parent. Okay. So if I have an attachment style with my dad that is one of codependence, I will marry a man who is more dictator like my father. And if I am a man who had a neglectful or a domineering or mother who just wasn't emotionally available, I will marry a woman who is neglectful, kind of puts me down, and is emotionally unavailable. I will marry a similar person than my parent because this is where I feel comfortable. Oh my gosh. I will marry a person who reminds me of that parent because that is where I feel comfortable. Or I marry them because I want to prove that I can do something different, right? It's like the dad that left the family, and I'm the daughter. And so I marry men who are emotionally unavailable because I want them to finally choose me. Makes sense, right? Makes sense. And if they don't, if I feel like they're choosing work, or if I feel like they're choosing something else above me, then my attachment style will come up. I may lash out at them in an ambivalent way. I may push them away or be dismissive in a way to say, no, nothing's wrong. Everything's fine. It's okay that you're just indulged in work, right? Or I may busy myself so I don't get so hurt by their emotional inavailability. Or I may come very close and ask for closeness and then push away when it's there because I don't want to be hurt, right? So in this dynamic, then we see when we've chosen that partner that models our parental dysfunction, what attachment style we are truly living in. That being said, let's talk about what a secure attachment is. These are people that can reconcile situations individually on their own, right? They have coping mechanisms within the relationship, in partnership. There is healthy repair in these types of attachments. They feel safe opening up, trusting, being vulnerable. They're able to healthily and securely share their feelings. And let me say that one more time because it's important that you hear that they are able to healthily and securely share their feelings. Okay. Because unhealthy attachment styles can share their feelings too. It's just that they do it in an insecure and unhealthy way. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about when I say this, but those people that just kind of like spew all their feelings and say, well, they didn't hear me. So I'm just not going to talk about my feelings anymore. And it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to give you kudos for sharing your feelings in an unhealthy and insecure way, or those people that share their feelings and when they get a little kickback or they hit some turbulent waters in the conversation with their partner, then they backtrack, right? Then they say, it's yeah, you're right. It was silly of me to bring it up and it doesn't really matter. It's not that important. And you're right. I don't know what I was thinking, right? That's insecure. That is insecure because that is you not owning your feelings. Okay. The ability to healthily and securely, this is a huge one, share your feelings looks a bit like this, right? When you disregard the importance of my work when I'm sharing it with you or when I'm opening up about something I'm very passionate about, it makes me feel like you don't care about the things that I care about. And that hurts my feelings because I want to feel that you are with me and that you care about what I care about. That makes me feel important to you. Right now, I feel a bit in that way. I feel unimportant when you disregard or simply brush off what is important to me. Okay, that's the secure. Now, here's where it gets good. Let's say my partner says, I'm not brushing it off. I'm just really busy. And it's like, you always want to talk about the, and you are important to me. Can't you see that? Don't I do like 1,000 other things that make you feel important? Okay, now I'm the person who is sharing again, healthily and securely, right? I understand that that's not what you're meaning to do, but that's what it feels like to me. And that's my experience. That's it. That's how you securely share your feelings. And let's say they go, you always make a big deal out of everything. It's like, I can't do anything right. And always you need more from me. I don't know what you need. Okay. I'm the secure person. I'm not really asking for you to do anything more. I'm simply sharing to you how this certain situation affects me and hurts me. And you don't need to understand. I guess I'm just sharing with you so that you have a better idea about me, right? So I'm going to sit in that. I'm going to back myself up. I'm going to validate myself in that dialogue. Now, hopefully, secure attachment, a secure partner will be with another secure partner, and that altercation wouldn't be a thing. But if it is, the secure way of approaching that is to validate yourself while validating them, right? Saying, I understand that you didn't do it on purpose. It's not your intention, but here's what's happening. Here's the result, right? And I'm not saying that you're bad, and I'm not negating everything else that you do amazingly, by the way. I'm simply saying, in this way, here's how my feelings are being affected. Okay. In secure attachments, partners will also ask for support, right? I'm really, really busy this week. I could use your help in a little bit extra of a way. Could you pick up the kids on Wednesday? I know it's normally my day, or I'm normally there for them, but I really need some time, right? You can ask for support, or I really need some emotional support right now. I cannot have distractions right now. Can you please help me by not distracting me with a bunch of other projects? I really need to be focused right now. This is very simple and a way to communicate. Here's what I need as far as support, and here's what support looks like, right? And the last one, this is huge, 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 is that these secure people can function individually within the partnership, right? They don't need to be in the partnership all the time. They can be individuals. They have individual pursuits. They have individual hobbies. They have friends. They have, they even like time to themselves once again, and they can let their partner have time to themselves every once in a while too. This is very, very healthy. and a secure attachment when there's individuality and autonomy within the relationship. So identifying yours and your partner's too attachment style is very, very, very important, because if you're dating, you'll be able to quickly see, given you are able to experience a couple of stressful situations, how they exhibit their attachment styles and whether or not it's healthy for you. You'll be able to see what their insecure attachment styles are. And this saves you a lot of time and pain in the future, should you choose to date somebody without knowing their attachment style or yours, right? You should, this is what I recommend so many people. And this is, again, going back to the divorce thing, is people are getting divorced not because they're like, unbiblical and ungodly and all of these things. I thoroughly believe they're just choosing the wrong partners. And it's like, it's okay to say, I messed up. I chose the wrong partner and for the wrong reasons in a very unhealed state, right? But it's like, let's own that. Let's not stay in a toxic relationship or pattern because of shame, right? That we're not supposed to get divorced and that's against biblical rules and these types of things. Listen, I am not an advocate for staying together just for the sake of staying together. I'm also not an advocate for staying together for the sake of the kids, because I think that in order to shift societal norms and healthy relationships in the long term, we need to be able to model healthy attachment styles to our children. And so it's better to consciously separate an unhealthy attachment style in order to save your kids watching or witnessing that and thinking that that is the norm, and then having to grow up into the same thing that you're doing is working on your attachment styles, right? I am not an advocate for stay together because of the children. I think it's much better to teach children secure, healthy attachments and secure ways of loving yourself, right? If you are in an unhealthy relationship and you choose to choose you, you are demonstrating to your children that they are worth it too, right? And that they can do the same thing. So know your worth, know your value. And the truth is that love is not enough. It is not enough. Love is not enough in relationships to make them work. Secure attachments are. And I think I would go one step further and to say, I do not believe that relationships either work out or don't work out because someone can speak your love language. I think most people, when they really try, if they really try, can speak another person's love language, at least for a time, right? At least for a season of time. But at the end of the day, if there's insecure, unhealthy attachments, that relationship is not going to work. It's not. Because relationships thrive when they're put under stress. That's how you see the strength in the foundation of a relationship, is when it's put under pressure. That's when, same thing with COVID, when something gets squeezed, you see what comes out, right? And if you're not working together, both together in partnership, on developing a secure attachment in the relationship, then when you are put under pressure or stress or something comes up, or a trigger happens, which we'll talk about in one moment, then the unhealthy attachment exposes itself and the relationship is put at jeopardy. It's really, really actually, and this is what we'll talk about in the next episode, impossible to truly love if you're in an insecure or unhealthy attachment style. This is not true love. It's worldly love. It's not true love. And so a lot of people are married and not in true love, or dating and not in true love. Love is modeled through the secure attachment style. And if you notice, the aspects or characteristics or defining qualities of the secure attachment style are mostly about how we are secure in ourselves. Okay. Oh my gosh. So your ability, this is the huge one, right? Because we all want to look for the perfect relationship. We want to look for the partner that has a secure attachment style. It's like, look within yourself. Develop security within in order to attract a secure relationship. Because here's what's interesting. A secure person can be placed in any type of relationship. Oh my gosh. A secure attachment style person can be placed in any type of relationship. And guess what? Still be secure. They can be with an avoidant, still be secure. They can be with an ambivalent, still be secure. See, they're not rocked from their place of internal security because their security is not dictated based on the response of their partner or whoever's on the other end of the relationship. Okay. Their security is based from within. And therefore, no matter how it's the model of what I just said in the example of sharing your feelings healthily and securely is no matter what you say, I still feel how I feel, and that's okay. That's my experience. I'm sharing it with you so you know. If you want to choose to see me and get closer, then that is great and our relationship will be strengthened. If you don't, there will be distance between us. It's not going to change how I feel and how I know I felt or experienced it, but it will change the nature of our trust and our intimacy in the relationship until I just choose to leave the relationship altogether because I know that I deserve more, right? I'm not saying that this is me. I'm saying this is a secure person. And all of this is developed inside, internally, one-on-one, individually, on your own, which is why I say people should remain single for however long it takes for you to heal your insecure attachments first. This can only be done, the first phases anyway, in isolation, not isolation from people, but isolation from intimate relationships and in that setting, right? We practice in relationships. We need to come to this internal security on our own merits, on our own journey. We don't need a partner to get there. That's actually another quality of insecure attachments. We don't say, I need to be in a relationship in order to become secure. No, no, no. You become secure first, and then you practice it in relationships. You practice it in dating, in recognizing the insecure attachment style of your partner or any insecure attachment style that may be coming up with you with that person, and then communicating that effectively, transparently, and vulnerably. And then you really practice it and model it when you do decide to get married and find your person. You practice it and model it daily, because you're still going to have a tendency to draw back into the insecure attachment style if something comes up. Of course, it gets easier over time. This is healing, right? That it gets easier. It doesn't disappear. It gets easier. Now, real briefly, before we talk about triggers in order to assess where these insecurities are happening, I want to talk about trauma bonds because this is a very loosely thrown out term nowadays, and it's actually not as common as you would think. Most trauma bonds are formed from extreme abuse, actually. So this is why I say it's less common than you may think. A lot of people think that, oh, I'm bonding with someone who reminds me of my trauma. Ew, that's just insecure attachments, right? The most trauma bonds are simply insecure attachments due to unhealthy attachment and learning as a child. That's what the insecure attachment is, right? Trauma bonding is a bit more extreme. Trauma bonding is an unhealthy emotional attachment to someone who causes you physical, emotional, or sexual harm. This is like your very commonly used example of the abusee becoming infatuated with her or his abuser. This is a trauma bond. This is very extreme. And in this type of relationship, the abusive partner can kind of fluctuate between extreme affection and extreme abuse and just repeat this in cycles. And these episodes of affection serve as kind of positive reinforcement of staying in the relationship that says, okay, this is worth it. It's possible. It's, change can happen. But then the abuse is so extreme that it makes you want to leave. But it's like, it's almost this extreme form of the disorganized pattern, in which the abusive partner does the affection, strong affection, and then the abuse in these cyclical behaviors. This is the victim of a narcissistic abusive relationship, that the narcissist will flow between two extremes, extremely in love and affectionate and compassionate and loving, and extremely abusive, distant, mean, demeaning, controlling, right? So this person then will develop a trauma bond in becoming emotionally attached to the person that is causing them harm and pain. And even if they escape this person, the abuser, they will end up repeating the cycle with another person or attempting to recreate that bond and behavior with someone else. This is a trauma bond. I think a lot of people will say, my boyfriend or girlfriend cheated on me. And so then I always find other partners and they end up cheating on me. It's a trauma bond. It's not a trauma bond. That's not a trauma bond. That's just like attracting the same types of partners, right? That's the unhealthy attachment style. Trauma bonding is much more extreme and it's a bit deeper. So let's talk about how to navigate triggers. Let's talk about how, what triggers are and what they look like, how they expose our attachment styles, and then let's talk about what healing actually looks like with these triggers. So triggers are kind of instances where we're reminded either of a trauma, a painful relationship, a wound, a pain, or any really unresolved aspect of ourselves when it comes to relationships, right? Any one of our parts can be triggered by this. It is when a part of us, okay, this is, oh my gosh, this is so important. This is when a part of us becomes triggered and reminded of something painful that is unresolved, and it begins to drive the ship, leading to reactions that are disproportionate to what is really happening. Okay, this is a trigger. The trigger often cues an irrationally large response in proportion to what's actually happening. So for instance, let's see, you may get triggered when your partner, so for instance, you may experience a trigger if you are in communication or in a conflict with your partner and they say, I can't have this conversation anymore, and they leave the room. Okay. This may trigger a part of you as to say, you don't care. You always leave. You're leaving me now. You never listen to it's all these like nevers and always. And it's like, and you may lash out or say a whole bunch of mean stuff. Or let's just say another example is your partner doesn't text you back all throughout the day. Right. And that is your trigger. That right there, that's your trigger. And you completely lose your shit. You lash out, you send him novels after novels of, you're never responsive, you're a good for nothing low life, and you don't care about me, and you're always absent, you care more about work, and blah, 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 on and on it goes. The point is that based on the behavior or the situation that actually happened, the response was disproportionately large as to what it would be if there were not a trigger or a wound there. Okay. And so when triggers arise, you will notice your insecure attachment style come up. Let's say a trigger happens and you are expressing your feelings to your partner and they kind of just rationalize it away and say, like, you shouldn't feel that way. Get over it. I'm being dramatic for the sake of the example being heard, but you're sharing your feelings. They just don't get it. They don't respond to your feelings very well. And so your trigger response is to shut down. I'm never going to share my feelings again. That's it. I'm going to isolate myself. I'm going to push you away. What do you think that is? Avoidant, dismissive attachment style. Okay. Okay. So this insecure attachment style will come up when a trigger is present. Now, the trigger really is it's a compass towards a wound. Okay. The trigger is a compass towards a wound. And in a secure attachment, we can be with the trigger inside of ourselves and understand the part of ourselves that's being triggered. Again, the part of ourselves that's being triggered, and be with that part. Okay. This is the part that says we can resolve some things internally, some things, not all things, because partnership is partnership. But in secure attachments is when we can be with that part of ourselves that is being triggered, honor our experience and why it feels so big, right? We may even respond or react initially in an extreme way. And then on the back end of that, take a step back and say, whoa, what just happened there? Let me go inside. Let me be with myself and honor and understand what I'm experiencing here and why this is so bothersome. Right? We do that first. And then we can take it to our partner. We can express and communicate to our partner really what happened, right? What was happening inside of ourselves at that time that caused us to see this a different way, right? It's like we were not ourselves. When a trigger happens, we have the capabilities of not being ourselves because this triggered part takes over. It takes over and says, oh my gosh, abort mission, get back. Pain is at your doorstep. Right? Too close. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I know this feeling, right? That's the part talking. And the part then takes over the whole system in a moment. This is a trigger. Now, when healing is happening, the trigger becomes information. Okay. And instead of letting it take over, we feel it come up. And then we say, okay, hold on. I'm going to slow things down. What is this trigger trying to show me about myself? Not my partner, and how bad they are. What is this trigger trying to show me? Okay. So instead of the trigger being a point of contention, it becomes a point of illumination in the self to bring light to any unhealed or just undealt with or unresolved wound or situation or pattern. And it becomes that simple. That's just it, right? The trigger is the compass that points us towards the unhealed part. And it's that simple. It doesn't become about how the partner's bad, how your partner's horrible, they're not doing enough, they're not being enough. It becomes a point of opportunity for healing individually. And, oh my gosh, triggers become an opportunity for individual healing and increased intimacy and closeness in secure partners. Triggers become opportunities for individual healing, and increased intimacy and closeness within the partnership in secure attachments. You can tell you're operating insecurely when triggers cause you to shut down, push away, lash out, leave, self-loathe, on and on. In insecure partnerships or insecure attachment styles, triggers become a major point of contention, sometimes to a point of irreconcilable differences in which there's no grace or forgiveness. And it becomes the reason why we can hang on to our fear of getting close, becomes the reason to push away more or isolate more or work more or whatever more, right? Do anything other than open up and get close. This is really what triggers are, and it's how they show up. So let your triggers be your information as to your attachment styles, your partner's attachment styles, and what needs to be done in order to get to a more secure place. Now, here's the tricky part about this change and this healing. If you are in a toxic relationship, or I should say, in a less abrasive way, if you are in a relationship in which both of you are operating in any of the insecure attachment styles, you cannot control whether or not your partner chooses to develop a secure attachment style with you. You can only control that you choose to do the healing involved in reaching secure attachment style behaviors. And then you'll need to decide, and that's kind of par for the course, right? If you're working on a secure attachment style, you'll be able to decide better for yourself whether or not this relationship is one that you can stay in, and it's healthy and it's secure and it's strong and it can grow and it can be built, or not. Okay? Only you can decide that. However, it's still possible that you can model secure attachment style behavior within a relationship in which someone else has insecure attachment style behaviors. Okay, it's still possible. Is it sustainable? I'm not sure. Can you do it? Maybe. Would you want to? I don't think so. I think it's better for a secure attachment style person to be with another secure attachment style person. Of course, in this way, y'all will both still be working on your previous conditioning within relationships, right? That's part of the process. That is why partners do still heal together. But a large majority of that work will be done internally, with you and yourself, with you, yourself, and you. But it will still, like, again, it's like the battleground really is the relationship. That's where you really get good. It's like I can practice boxing with a bag all day long. I can get my fundamentals down, but where I'm really going to get good and where I'm really going to be like shown, okay, where did you do a good job in training and where did you not pay enough attention in training, is when I'm in the ring with somebody else, right? That's relationship. So your boxing bag is like your internal work, right? You're doing these things. You can't possibly know if you've paid enough attention in this area, or if you're like over stressing this area, until you're in the ring, in the relationship with your partner, seeing, oh crap, okay, I did a good job here. I'm voicing my needs. This feels good, right? But when they respond, it's like, oh, I forgot about that part. Okay, so I'm going to work on that in the ring. I'm also going to go back to the bag and work on that part there too. Does that make sense? And this is the difference then that brings me to the difference between relationships and partnerships, right? So relationships is basically the nature of which we have experiences with really everyone, everyone around us. We're in relationship with everyone and everything. We are in relationship. We are relating to things and people all day, every day. Okay? Relationship really is how you relate to someone, something, or yourself. You're in relationship with yourself. You're in relationship with your kids. You're in relationship with your friends, your parents, your siblings, your partner, your dogs, pets. Okay. You're relating to all of these things. This is how you relate in the world. It's relationship situation, not relationships. Okay. It's how we are relating to or with everything around us. Partnerships, on the other hand, are different. Partnerships are collaborative, they are reciprocal, and they form from secure attachments. Okay? You should really only have a handful of partnerships in your life. And you should have, well, we should all desire at least one main partnership, our intimate partner, in which we're really doing this work in and we're really experiencing the nature of partnership. Okay, partnerships are different from relationships in that they take into regard how their partner is relating in any situation, right? How is their partner relating to me? How is their partner relating to the world? How is my partner relating in their experiences in their work, right? It's like partnership really is taking into regard this other person's experience as, oh my gosh, as a part of your experience. Okay. And they will come alongside that person in order to solve a problem or to be a part of a better experience or whatever that may be, right? They'll take part in the miscommunication. They are a partner in it. It's not you against them. It's not like my experience and your experience. It's our experience. Partners are, this is our experience. And what you experience matters to me, right? It's part of my experience too. Partnerships use triggers as ways to get to know their partners more. Partnerships use conflict as a way to connect deeper. Partnerships see the bigger picture and seek to create experiences that they know would be meaningful to the partnership, right? In a partnership, it's really not you over here and me over here. It's we. It's not you and me. It's we. And it's we. It's us and then everything else. Okay. Relationships may easily get triggered. And can form breakdowns. And relationships are those in which we can accept we will have a lot of them come and go in our lives, including friendships. Okay, relationships often resolve triggers by acting according to the trigger, not the person. Oh my gosh, this is huge. The difference between relationships and partnerships is that partnerships see the person in the trigger. Relationships see the trigger and respond to the trigger, not the person. Okay? That is huge, huge, huge. Because a true partnership can only work when we see the individual in everything, even if they're lashing out, even if they're hurt, even if they're in the darkest of their moments. We don't see the triggered part. We see the person. This is a partnership. This is a true, true partnership in which regards the individual as more important than how the trigger makes them feel. Okay. And this is another example of how secure attachments operate. Now, by now, we've covered a lot of information about attachment styles, types, triggers, how we respond, how we show up, what's our contribution, right? And in all of that, what I'd encourage you to get to is realize that your attachment style is due to learned behavior. And if you can learn something, you can unlearn something, and you can learn something new. And learning happens with repetition. It also happens with play. So in this process, don't take yourself too seriously and don't take others too seriously. Take them as you would take yourself, lightly, and in a way to say, this is not who they are. It's a part of them that is showing up, and it's overshadowing the real them. Now, within this, you get to choose, right? That is one part of it. Acknowledging that this is not the whole person, it's just part of them, is helpful for you and your peace, so that you don't feel the negative consequences of thinking a person is bad. Because if you're doing that to them, you're most likely doing it to yourself. But you can recognize and understand that it's just a part of somebody that is lashing out and that is hurt and that is traumatized and whatever, and understand that, but still not tolerate it. So you get to choose here on where the line between understanding the difference between knowing someone's pains but not accepting the behavior. You need to choose where to put the line between understanding someone's pain and accepting how they choose to carry on that pain to you. The acceptance part leads to forgiveness, which frees you. But the secure response leads to the reiterated self-love that you have for yourself in your secure attachment styles. Now, there is a spiritual solution to all of this, and that is to live a life that we mentioned earlier in the episode of unattachment, which is basically the same thing as secure attachment. It's the same thing. Secure attachment is living a life of unattachment. In secure and unattachment basically says that my worth, my identity, my safety, my value, my safety does not rely on the responses, approval, or actions, or choices of another person. Except for the two, maybe the small percentage of people that are literally in jeopardy physically. Okay, this is totally different. This is not for anybody who is in an emotionally dire, unsafe situation. Okay, I will just say that this is not for you. You need to get out immediately if you feel physically unsafe, or you're being physically harmed or hurt in any way. No questions asked. You need to safely remove yourself. But in a secure and life of unattachment, this is the type of living that says, no matter who you are, mom, dad, husband, wife, anybody, no matter who you are, my attachment to you or my need to have you in my life does not supersede my worth, my identity, and my safety. Right? And that nothing this person says or does or doesn't do, by the way, will change or diminish or affect how you feel about your worth, your identity, your internal safety, and your emotional well-being. Being unattached is really that they don't define you or your purpose here on earth. That is a you pursuit. That is the pursuit of you. And in unattachment, this really lets people be who they are without needing them to change, or your vision of them to change in order to fit your picture, and which would communicate love to you, right? So unattachment lets people be exactly who they are without you needing to fix them or change them. You let the blueprint and the vision of what the nature of that relationship looks like unfold before you. You don't paint the picture first and then forcefully try to fit them into that picture, right? You don't say, oh, this is how we're going to be, and this is who this person is for me, and this is the way that my mom's relationship is going to be with me. And then when she's not like that, you either forcefully try to communicate to her, change her, or you mope and cry and stay wounded forever, clinging on to that picture, right? Being unattached doesn't say, get away from me, you horrible beast. I need to heal now from all of the horrible things that you've done for me. It's saying, you know what? You are who you are. I'm going to let you be who you are. And I will adjust my vision of what our relationship looks like based on who you are, not based on what I want you to be. I'm certainly not going to change myself in order to create the perfect picture that I want in that relationship, right? I'm going to move with who you are. You let people go if they want to, let people stay as they want to, or move away from them if you need to, okay? You find appreciation for the moments that you have with these people, but you let them go. You let them go without the need to make them feel bad about anything, or without you going into a deep self-loathing or regret or guilt of all the past, right? You let them go to say, you're going to go be you and I'm going to go be me. And doing this actually improves all of your relationships, all of your attachments, because in that way of unattachment and security, people will feel free to be who they are in your presence. They will want to be more of their positive selves because they don't feel that you're pressuring them to change or to mold into some perfect picture and expectations that you have made out for them. People will feel that, and they will know that they will never be able to meet your high expectations and your perfect picture that you need them to be, right? People do not work that way. And so in this unattachment, it really, without being said or stated, encourages people to grow into more of who they are. Whether more of who that are is a good fit for you in an intimate relationship or not, let the two organic evolutions of the individuals decide whether or not that is an intimate partnership or not. Don't try to place your need for it or this person to be an intimate partnership as the precipice and then try to change everything around it in order for it to be that. Let the individual be the individual. Let you be you. And then you see if him being him or her being her and you being you is a good intimate relationship. It makes sense. It's healthy. It's secure. Then it makes sense. It's healthy and secure. Then we do it. And if it becomes unhealthy and insecure and we can't fix it, then let it go. That's unattachment. That's secure attachment. Secure attachment, unattachment is the same thing. So as we're moving through this process, we reach this next level, right? Of, in addition to having secure attachment styles and partnerships and relationships, is we really reach a next level of spiritual wholeness because we let go of the attempts to make people, fix people, mold people, change people, which is an endless and vain pursuit because it can never be done. It can never be done. People will only be who they are, nothing more, nothing less. And a secure attachment says, you being you does not affect my well-being, my self-worth, my connectedness, my safety, my self-love, right? No matter who you are, I still know who I am. You can't convince me that I'm someone that I'm not. You can't convince me otherwise. You being who you are will simply be who you are, and I will still be who I am. I will validate my own experiences and feelings. I will be with my experiences and feelings. I will understand my experiences and feelings. And then I will connect with those that are safe places so that they can see more of me. I will let people into my home, right? My home here, to see the parts of me as I understand them and share them in that way, right? I don't get to choose if they want to stay in or if they want to leave. I don't choose that. It's when I show you me, will you stay or will you leave? But either way, either decision doesn't dictate that I'm more or less valuable. If you stay, it doesn't mean I'm more valuable because you chose to stay. If you leave, it doesn't mean I'm less valuable. Okay? And it also, if they leave, doesn't mean that you're not going to share yourself again. It means that is someone who wasn't able to reside safely in your home. Either they work with their own fears and attachment styles and they can't handle that, or it's just a mismatch. Both are okay. Both are okay because they are. Unhealthy or insecure attachment styles exhibit and manifest and happen when we are either scared of getting what we want or we're hurt by not getting what we want. Unhappy attachment styles develop because we have expectations on what the relationship should be. Expectations based on needs we think the other person should be meeting rather than ourselves. Oh my gosh. Unhealthy attachment styles manifest and continue because we have expectations based on needs that we think the other person should be meeting rather than us meeting them first. Okay. And secure attachment and unattachment says, I am the sole provider of meeting my emotional needs. And my partner is somebody that I choose to bring into that experience because I choose to, not because it's a necessity in order to feel validated, loved, and safe. Partnership is when I let my partner into my experience as a desire for deeper relationship with them. An insecure attachment says, I keep you as much out of it as possible in fear that I'll be hurt by your irresponsiveness or I'll be hurt in some other way. Unhealthy attachment says, push away the opportunities to get close because I'm angry. Maybe you don't deserve it. You don't deserve this part of me. Again, expectations. Expectations. Unattachment and secure attachment says, I am sharing this with you without expectation of what the outcome will be. I'm sharing it for the simple act of sharing it because that is what helps me feel in relationship with myself. And I'd like to invite you into that process. That is partnership. That is partnership that lasts. Okay? That is partnership that will last. And within there, we can meet all the love languages and do all of the extra things. But without getting this fundamental base down, knowing the love languages, doing the tantric work, ecstatic dance lessons, and therapy sessions with your partner, it will not work. until you are able to do this work in yourself to develop secure attachment styles. Doesn't matter what else you do. You will be out of love and in something different. And in something different doesn't last. Love lasts. Okay? Love, true love, true love. Before I said love is not enough, I didn't mean true love. True love is enough because true love will be in security and unattachment. True love is enough. All the other stuff is not. It's something else, and it's something else that it has a time window. Every something else has a finite time window. It will end at some point. Whether the actual relationship ends in separation, it will end, right? The relationship within its context of the bounds of intimacy and, sharedness. It's like at some point the relationship dies, even though you still are together. Okay. There's a finite window. Anything other than love, there's a finite window. There's a start and a stop, or a beginning and an end. True love, on and on and on and on and on. It's forever love. It is eternal love. And next episode, we will talk about true love, what it is. We'll talk about these communication styles, right? Because everybody communicates differently. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And it is quite true. There's a definite communication difference between men and women, and specifically different types of men and women. We'll talk about needs and values and finding alignment with your partner, how to choose your partner based on needs and values, and then what exactly is true love. I hope this episode helped you, brought some insight more into yourself, into your partnership if you're in one. I should say relationship if you're in one, because if it's an unhealthy attachment, it's a relationship, not a partnership, or your healthy partnership. And that would be even more encouraging, right? I pray that this did bring you value. If it did bring you value, please, as always, hit that share button. Let somebody else know so that they can learn about themselves and their partnerships. Relationships are the core of our happiness. We are relationship beings. We come here for connection. So our relationships are the most important thing in our life. The most important thing. Number one, your relationship with yourself, and then with others. But you can only have secure relationships with others if you have a secure relationship with yourself. So it starts within, as always, igniting your own spark within, right? That's why we're here. That's what we're doing. So until next time, share this episode. Be well. If there's any comments or epiphanies that came up, as always, share them with me. Share this episode, tag me. I'll share it on my wall as well. And until next time, be well. I love you all. Talk to you very, very soon. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Ignite the Spark Within. If this podcast brought you value, or you think it would bring someone else value, please hit that share button. My mission is to reach and help as many people as I possibly can. And you just never know who could use that one good piece of information. And hey, if you have any topics, discussion questions, or ideas for future episodes, you can reach me directly at sarah@sparkflc.com and just write podcast in the subject line. And if you haven't already, please rate the podcast on your favorite podcast channel. This helps bring awareness to the show. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you're alerted for all future episodes. Please go ahead and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're interested in pursuing coaching for yourself, you can visit sparkflc.com for more information.